Part 4. The zero-risk argument. In theory, if not zero-risk strategies are dealt with, nature would silently watch herself being placed in the hellish part of the Paradise Machine model. If this assumption is correct, it should be possible to find traces of what should be a desperation in the machine's design, as nature's ego would probably design the machine to never risk anything when it comes to which part of the Paradise Machine her ego will end up in. This scenario is what is referred to as the zero-risk argument. The zero-risk arguments are as follows. The first argument. The second law of thermodynamics. The first mechanism in the machine which are there to prevent the universe to develop in the opposite direction from the paradise state is the second law of thermodynamics. It is an obvious one since if evil traits that are needed to produce hell needs constant abundance and the removal of chaos to prevail. According to fourth law, evil traits should not be able to prevail in this universe, just based on the second law of thermodynamics, and that this law is an important part of the machine's design. The notion that the universe was created with a finite amount of energy should be a fundamental zero-risk argument. The second law of thermodynamics has ensured, without risk, that good traits have slowly but surely accumulated over evil traits in all merging life forms on Earth at least for the first 4 billion years, as no earlier life forms has been able to create constant abundance and thereby able to remove chaos. As predicted by fourth law, the results are evident by using, for example, ants and ducks as model organisms, figures 5 and 6. Therefore, until a life form in the universe becomes so advanced that it can create constant abundance, eliminate chaos, and adopt zero-risk strategies, there should be no opportunity for evil traits to gain power before this stage. Good qualities should therefore have been given a 4 billion year head start on evil qualities. This is grounded in the principles of the fourth law from the first article in 2010. Moreover, to alter the machine, now meaning the universe, from its love-producing state, it would likely require changing the finite energy configuration of the universe, essentially undermining the basis for the second law of thermodynamics and entropy. Such an operation is probably unachievable for a nascent life form. In conclusion, given that the universe is a system with finite energy, it follows that evil traits should never have the opportunity to dominate the system, thus presenting a zero-risk argument. The second argument. The information paradox in black holes makes possible zero-risk observation. Stephen Hawking remains a trailblazer in the domain of explaining how mass energy could vanish and break the first law of thermodynamics, conservation of mass energy, with his 1970s concept of Hawking radiation. Hawking mathematically demonstrated that black holes would lose energy, and thereby mass, by emitting radiation from quantum particles. Yet, Hawking's theory also encounters a challenge by breaking conservation of information. As a black hole's mass dissipates as radiation in Hawking radiation, it implies a loss of information, leading to what is known as the information paradox. Various theories have sought to reconcile Hawking radiation with the conservation of information law. A prominent theory suggests that all information about matter crossing the event horizon is preserved two-dimensionally at the horizon itself. This approach, aiming to resolve the information paradox, is often referred to as the holographic principle. Although highly abstract, this theory remains the most popular theory to explain the information paradox that challenges Hawking radiation. During the investigation process, I concluded that there were no solid evidence that could back up Hawking radiation, just some good, but still, abstract theories. Hence, I decided that fourth law's explanation to the problem could be launched. Applying fourth law to explain how mass energy can vanish while sustaining the information collected by a black hole is therefore a competing theory. However, on this note I should mention that one of the founders of the holographic principle, Leonard Susskind, did inspire me to see nature as a machine with different parts and processes after seeing his interview on Closer to the Truth on YouTube discussing a theory of everything. In this interview, Susskind suggested that what we lacked to understand the purpose behind the universe was perhaps to see it from a bird's view, to understand what it was, like a car or a machine. This interview gave me the idea that nature could be a machine that produced the paradise state already introduced in fourth law, EU equals 0 equals paradise. I guess I subconsciously started to look for imaginary parts in a universal machine after seeing this interview. I guess black holes became the first imaginary part of a machine that was designed to produce the paradise state predicted in fourth law. What first drew me towards black holes was that it was the only place in the universe in which mass energy seemed to vanish, which was the most controversial aspect of the fourth law, since this process breaks the conservation of mass energy. Therefore, black holes could potentially be the location of the advanced life forms which fourth law had suggested to be out there. Since fourth law predict these advanced life forms to produce love and intelligence on the expense of mass energy, thereby reducing mass energy in the universe. Black holes form in space-time when gravity intensifies to the extent that nothing, not even light, can escape. The threshold for this occurrence, known as the point of no return, is the crossing of the event horizon surrounding a black hole, figure 12 and 14. Beyond this boundary, it is believed that reversal is impossible even for light. Such extreme gravitational forces are said to exceed the escape velocity required to break free from the pull towards the mass which causes the gravitational field. This situation actually creates a one-way mirror effect, as the light only travel in one direction across the event horizon. Hence, if advanced life forms do locate to this area in the universe, it means they also get the chance to observe the mass energy part of the universe with no risk, which means that they can see us, but we cannot see them. Hence, this part of the machine model points toward a new zero-risk argument. That is, to the paradise machine. This way of constructing black holes might not be a coincidence, as it also produces another zero-risk argument, caused by the one-way mirror effect caused by black holes, which illustrated in figure 12. The first visual evidence of a black hole was not captured until 2021. Prior to that, black holes were purely theoretical constructs based on Albert Einstein's theory on general relativity published in 1915. If only the curvature of spacetime was strong enough, nothing should be able to escape once captured by the black hole. It appears today that each galaxy in the universe revolves around a massive black hole at its center. However, black holes have also been observed elsewhere in the cosmos, including smaller ones. There is speculation that miniature black holes might be present near Earth. Nonetheless, the fundamental nature of all black holes remains consistent. They are regions in spacetime where gravity is so overpowering that it exceeds the escape velocity of any object. Consequently, anything that crosses the event horizon into a black hole will never to come back as information. And this is where the one-way mirror effect enters the discussion. If advanced life forms do exist on the other side of black holes, which the fourth law do predict, this means that the event horizon function as a one-way mirror, which makes possible zero-risk observation from their side of the event horizon, basically meaning that they can observe us, but no nascent life forms in the universe can observe them. This is a tremendous advantage to have in a struggle for survival scenario, in particular if they also are more advanced. As already mentioned, the initial concept that sparked the writing of this article was the possibility that advanced life forms might be what contributed to the reduction of mass energy in black holes. Since according to fourth law, ever since the first article, advanced life forms should reduce mass energy in the production process of higher concentrations of love and intelligence, now also referred to as being the third and absolute lowest form of energy. Therefore, in the initial phase of the writing process to this article, the plan was to focus just on this topic, by writing a short article to launch this idea and thereby challenge Hawking radiation. Before I could write the article, I first needed to investigate if it was possible even to sow doubt in Hawking's theory. Did his well-established theory on how the first law of thermodynamics could be broken, basically how mass energy could vanish from the universe, have a missing link? During this investigation process, I learned that Hawking radiation has one big problem: the information paradox. It did not only give me the go signal to write the article on black holes, but also provided the rationale for the one-way mirror effect presented here. That is, if advanced life forms do exist on the other side of the event horizon in black holes. In summary, the suggested location of advanced life forms from behind the event horizon could create another zero-risk argument, since such a position behind the event horizon would allow them to observe nascent life forms like ours, risk-free. Indeed, the Paradise Machine model posits that black holes are a crucial aspect of the machine's design. The existence of corridors behind event horizon. As we are discussing black holes, the concept of singularity is pivotal. The functional role of black holes, as posited by the Paradise Machine model, would be more plausible if black holes formed some sort of functional portals, connecting their massless world to ours. Ideally, black holes should possess a mechanism for opening and closing such portals, serving as functional corridors to the predicted paradise state. Eminent scientists like Hawking and Penrose have proposed that a singularity is a probable feature deep within black holes. This theory does not coincide well with having functional portals somewhere behind the event horizon. Nonetheless, there is no concrete evidence that black holes culminate in a singularity. It is just a theory. Renowned researcher Roy P. Kerr has highlighted indications of a more intricate reality within the depths of black holes. This complexity aligns with the Paradise Machine model's prediction of a functional inner structure of black holes. Roy P. Kerr posits that rotating black holes form a ring-shaped structure, not a singularity. This structure is known as an ergosphere and is sustained by the centrifugal forces from the black hole's rotation. This should prevent a collapse of the corridor created. Kerr suggests that within this tunnel-like structure, the established laws of physics may alter, potentially allowing phenomena like wormholes or Einstein-Rosen bridges. Seen from the Paradise Machine model's point of view, these hypothetical tunnels could theoretically serve as gateways to different paradise states, or function as shortcuts to cross vast distances within our own universe. This segment of the model, the tunnel part, is also where the production of the eternal feeling of safety and joy might be produced. This smaller segment of the machine cowl be tasked with producing the state of eternal euphoria via advanced bullying mechanism. This troublesome theme and its morale was discussed in Part 3. True or not, it might be in these tunnels the hellish part of the machine is by forming an entrance section before the paradise state begins. This should be a crucial part of the machine in which the constant feeling of happiness in the paradise state is produced. The morale of applying such a brutal and inhumane production method to create the eternal sensation of safety and joy was outlined in detail in Part 3. The conclusion is that any such production method ought to be governed by a principle of justice, prioritizing the protection of the innocent. According to the fourth law, this includes the vast majority of nascent life forms present when the zero-risk signal is activated. Further, that babies and small children should be at the pinnacle of protection since they embody zero risk themselves. The logics behind this rationale was presented in Part 2. In the remaining zero-risk arguments, we will stay in the quantum world. The three remaining arguments have to do with the central zero-risk signal and the manner in which the signal is detected and transmitted. The third argument: a quantum signaling mechanism, warning nature of zero-risk strategies. The urge to dominate one's surroundings should be ranked according to how great the threat to one's own interest is. Hence, until a universal life form become advanced enough to achieve zero risk, the higher life forms Femi talked about should not have a good reason to show any interest in an emerging life form such as ours, as such emerging life forms would be completely helpless in comparison to nature's ego, essentially posing no threat before zero risk has been achieved. However, their interest towards us should shift dramatically once we attain zero risk, as the up-and-coming life form now have demonstrated not only a willingness to dominate and to be cruel to whatever they manage to dominate, but also to have reached a significant technological advancement in doing so. Such nascent life forms are probably also advanced enough to enable space exploration and about to become a multiplanetary species. In sum, a zero-risk event transmitted from an emerging life form would probably significantly alter nature's perception of such a life form, such as ours. The third paper argues that even without the observer's conscious awareness of any malevolent intent, nature must weigh the true situation at hand. It should be forced to respond to what it perceives as malevolent intent on its own scale, relative to its own ego. This elevation of the universal energy state, in reaction to malevolent intent, is suggested to be the reason for the quantum wave transition to the particle state in wave-particle duality, Figure 16. However, this quantum detection mechanism for zero-risk strategies should serve a greater purpose in nature beyond just presenting the wave-particle duality enigma for human contemplation. The third paper suggests that this mechanism, same as observed in wave-particle duality, could serve to detect a successful zero-risk strategy through the same sensory system. It should identify when a certain critical level of malevolent intent is present, strong enough to achieve zero-risk strategies, indicating the intrusion of a natural adversary. In conclusion, the wave-particle duality experiment indicates the existence of a mechanism acutely sensitive to the moral intentions of intelligent life. The hypothesis presented in the paper is that this sensor mechanism, which accounts for wave-particle duality, is also linked to the advanced life forms described by Enrico Fermi. According to the previous paragraph, this event, zero risk, will determine whether they choose to interact with us or not, which is in alignment with the so-called zoo hypothesis to explain Fermi's paradox, Figure 15. In conclusion, it appears as though nature possesses an inherent alarm system designed to alert the entire universe when the fourth law, EU equals 0 equals paradise, is threatened to be reversed, and that the mechanism is constructed to alert nature the second the very first individuals in a nascent life form becomes a threat to nature's ego. To have such a mechanism in its system indicates an extreme urge to get informed of any evil accumulation in progress anywhere in the universe. Just to have such a widespread detection mechanism embedded in its system design suggests an extreme caution. Hence, the mechanism itself should belong to the zero-risk argument. The delayed choice quantum eraser effect, being the fourth zero-risk argument, just adds to this argument. The fourth argument. The delayed choice quantum eraser effect. The quantum community has found no other explanation for the wave-particle duality phenomenon except that observation itself triggers the formation of an unstable state. This is in agreement with the fourth law as suggested in the third article, Figure 16. Further experiments on the phenomenon attempted to conceal the intent to observe, ensuring that quantum particles were unaware of the observation until after they had passed through the slit filter. This means that the decision to observe was made after the particles had traversed the slit filter. The outcomes of these experiments were even more perplexing than the wave-particle duality itself. The particles remained unstable, excited to particle form, before the decision to observe was made, suggesting that the quantum particle was aware of the decision to observe the quantum wave. This led to the discovery of a second phenomenon in the wave-particle experiments, the delayed choice quantum eraser effect. This enigma in the quantum community implies that the quantum world may have the ability either to reverse time or possess foreknowledge of observational intent. Both of these possible explanations were suggested in the third article. This fourth article in the series on fourth law has now landed on the latter. As the mechanism probably is designed to function in the struggle for survival game, by lowering nature's own risk relative to any nascent life form that turns evil. That is, nature should like to know the presence of evil intent already at the planning stage, not having to wait for the actual observation itself. To wait for the actual observation to take place would slightly increase the stealth properties to evil intent's success. If so, it just underlines again how crucial the machines seem to have been designed relative to never lose control over what nature would classify as being life with evil intent. Being able to detect the threat already at the planning stage. Hence, the Paradise Machine model posits that the quantum eraser effect is a mechanism that is there to possess foreknowledge of evil intent in its system. Its critical function is probably to notify nature when a life form is about to attain zero risk, even before the observation itself starts. As if the ability to detect a physical observation demonstrated in wave-particle duality was not secure enough. Nature can, by having the quantum eraser effect in its design, detect a planned observation at the very moment the idea is born. What can be so important with this design? The answer in this context is the zero-risk argument. As if it is more at stake in the survival game than simply to live or die. Basically meaning that nature is alarmed not just at the very moment someone physically achieves zero-risk strategies, but could detect it at the very moment their rivals conspire to do so. Again, this suggested design implies that the machine is designed to protect itself at any cost, by not giving her emerging enemies, zero-risk achievers, any chance of escaping her attention. If you consider a biological context on Earth, the intent to observe might correlate with malevolent intent. As any crime, for example murder or stealing, must start by observing the object as an initial stage. But before that they need to plan, or conspire to observe. Specifically, if a malevolent life form plans to observe a benevolent one, this biological scenario closely resembles what occurs in the wave-particle duality experiment, as interpreted by fourth law. As humans should be more malevolent than nature is, the situation in the wave-particle duality experiment is simply transposed into a survival situation of an emerging life form and should be valid across the universe. Furthermore, and should be why the wave-particle duality mechanism exists in nature in the first place. This suggests that nature may become aware of a life form's malevolent intentions as soon as it is conceived in the mind, not waiting for the physical act of observation. This would give the competition extra time. Therefore, if a malevolent life form is on the verge of imposing zero-risk strategies on a less malevolent life form anywhere in the universe, nature seems to have a mechanism to detect this intent instantaneously. The question arises, why is nature so exceedingly cautious? The idea here is that nature, or the machine, constantly looks for zero-risk strategies in any universal life form, which should be received as a stress signal by the machine. As a last point, when it comes to draw similarities between wave-particle duality experiments and biological contexts, a way to document that the act of observing others in nature could be of evil intent, subconsciously that is, can be seen in monkeys and gorillas. It is common in areas that have wild monkeys mixed with a human population to warn the public of not to look the monkeys in their eyes, as it can cause them to attack. Figure 17. The fact that monkeys, which are close to us in evolution, have developed this behavior suggests that to observe could in fact, deep down in the subconscious mind, be with evil intent, as a general rule in nature, unless it is part of a mating ritual. As fourth law suggests, if nature herself has an ego, looking at the quantum wave in physics, looking at nature, could in theory be interpreted in the same way. Hence increasing the universe's energy state as fourth law predict evil intent should. There should be only one reason to why monkeys have developed this behavior in response to being observed. That their brains have learned during the course of evolution that to observe is done with evil intent, or at least that the probability for an observation to be with evil intent is noticeable high, as the ones which ignored being observed is no longer around. The fifth argument: transmission of information at instant speed. In the quantum world, signaling information is not limited to the speed of light in this universe. To any scientist, this would probably be rather trivial thinking. So what? That's just how it is. Similar to why black holes are constructed the way they are. To the Paradise Machine model and its zero-risk argument, it's not. For the machine to signal at instant speed across the entire universe becomes crucial to the machine model. In particular, if nature's police force like Femi life forms are located various places in the universe, for example behind the event horizon. If a signal was forced to be sent with the speed of light when an emerging life form triggered the zero-risk trap, it would give extra time to the rival life form to evolve and becoming a growing threat. Hence, to the Paradise Machine model, just the fact that instant signaling is possible in the universe should belong to the zero-risk argument. This instant signaling feature of the machine should make it possible for advanced life forms to contact us in a relatively short time period, relative to the great distances they might be located at. This is the focus of the last part of this article, presenting the so-called approach theory. This theory suggests that Femi life forms' closest distance to Earth could be approximately 1,500 light-years away, based on if their location is behind the event horizon in black holes. Hence, for them to locate our position and even perhaps start to communicate with us, just a few years after a zero-risk signal was triggered, could not happen if the information in the machine traveled at the speed of light. Presenting quantum entanglement. A quantum mechanism capable of instantaneous communication, thereby exceeding the speed of light, has been demonstrated through the well-known Robin's Eyes project in Europe. This project thereby suggests that biological brains in nature, specifically the brain of a bird, utilizes the quantum world for communication. This famous project's significant finding shows that the European robin probably navigates using quantum entanglement, indicating that brain activities can interact with the quantum world. This supports the notion in fourth law that nature can employ quantum mechanisms, for instance, to assess varying degrees of negative traits, such as greed. Particularly, when certain life forms in the universe reach a zero-risk state in their survival, fourth law suggests there must be a natural limit to the amount of greed nature can tolerate, with excessive greed potentially being perceived as an adversary by nature, assuming nature possesses a self-preserving ego. Presenting communication via changes in universal energy states. Fourth law revolves around the universe's sensitivity to energy states. The concept originated from the observation that the universe persistently adjusts the energy-favorable orientation of atoms within molecules, implying that this energy communication between the atoms' locations and something in the universe is instantaneous. Likewise, It's argued that the gravitational force operates instantaneously throughout the universe by constantly realigning the positions of objects. As Andrew Strominger mentioned in his interview with Lex Friedman, 23 minutes into the interview, quote, "If someone had a friend in another galaxy with a very sensitive measuring device that could measure the gravitational field, they could just take a cup of coffee, move it up and down in Morse code, and they could get the message instantaneously over to another galaxy." Andrew Strominger.